Hello, and welcome to Autology, the weekly podcast that brings you the latest on automotive technology. This week's episode is called Moving in the Right Direction, the next generation of satellite navigation. And you're here with me, Yanina Mills. We have Bill Schumacher, Senior Director, Global Automotive Strategy at HERE Technologies, alongside Vivek Birawal, IHS Markit's Connected Car and User Experience Expert. Hello to you both, and thank you for joining this week's episode of Autology.
Hi, Yanina. Hello, Bill.
Hi, Yanina. Hi, Vivek. Great to be on board with both of you today, and thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. So this week's episode is all about navigation technology. So the first question that I really have is, what are the major trends you're seeing in automotive related to location?
Thanks, Yanina. Great question. Location is clearly becoming even more essential to existing and many new use cases. We see more and more drivers and vehicles relying on maps and location for a variety of functions in the vehicle. And I think if you think about the earliest and most core experience was navigation, right? It remains core. It remains a key use case with expanding functionality enabled by a number of new elements like connected services and voice. We also see really an increasing number of functions and systems like ADAS or semi-autonomous features in the vehicle relying on mapping information for safety and convenience. And then certainly when you think about one of the major areas in the automotive industry for growth around electrification, there is much more planning required for how far you can travel and where you can charge. And this complex planning is really simplified with location and dynamic information together.
Thank you, Bill, for your insights. Just to add to what Bill said, I think connected automotive services driven by vehicle location are definitely evolving and are no longer confined to traffic and road congestion data. There are companies now that leverage information around identification, reservation, and payment for available parking spots. Logistics companies are using vehicle location data for cargo tracking and fleet management, route planning and optimization, roadside assistance, SOS assistance, stolen vehicle location assistance, geofencing, and so forth. Another use case that deserves a mention here is location-based commerce that leverages consumer location to drive contextual engagement with mobile shopping apps relative to a particular location or retail store.
Very interesting. So it's getting increasingly important for OEMs to make their navigation platforms voice agnostic. So how are voice assistants improving for satellite navigation, for Sat Nav? Will we always hear, at that next junction, turn left, or will they be more dynamic and personalized? Are voice assistants the key to support some of the multiple languages for navigating?
Yeah, great question, Yanina. I mean, the navigation market is evolving, and I've been in this industry for 15 years. So when I started, and certainly for many years, we saw really what was a button-based. It could be virtual or hard buttons, but the HMI was based on a button. And now we're seeing things really evolve to a much more interactive experience where the consumer is speaking with the car. And this is a huge leap forward, and the consumer experience is evolving because of it. And I think it really has the potential to change how consumers even feel about the car. That experience is going to be so unique and different. Now, when you think about voice, it's been around for a long time, but was not a strong feature in those established systems. It wasn't the primary interface and may have had some challenges at times. And it's incredibly important as we go forward. I think many of us believe it's expected to be the primary means of interacting with not just navigation or infotainment, but with really overall vehicle functionality and where appropriate. I don't mean that you need to ask your car to lower the driver's side window, but you may ask it for any number of other requests. And users are increasingly expecting to have this be with, as you were kind of alluding to, a more natural dialogue with voice assistants rather than just using static commands. I think we always had very static commands, very rigid commands that were more tied to a strict semantic structure that would trigger an action. And in this way, as this evolves into more natural language, it's going to feel quite natural and personalized. I think at this stage, each of the OEMs needs to determine if they want a white labeled solution for something like this. There are companies like SoundHound and Cerence, or you can get a branded solution from big tech like an Amazon Alexa. All of these solutions will change and improve the driver's experience. and just have trade-offs for what each of the OEM prioritizes and how they want their solution to be in market.
Can't agree more, Bill. Thank you. Navigation is an excellent use case for using voice interaction. The industry is moving from mechanical, emotionless, and monotonous instructions of old GPS systems to natural language in apps, systems, and automated customer support. And to make even navigation even more natural, turn-by-turn instructions can include landmarks to give drivers more time to react. For instance, instead of saying turn left, the navigator can say turn left at Starbucks and then keep right to prepare for a left turn near the football stadium. This allows drivers to spot landmarks pretty easily. And I think more lately, we've seen the introduction of what 3 words, apps like what 3 words with the simple 3-word coordinates would also encourage people to control navigation using voice.
So what's your take on embedded navigation versus brought-in navigation via a consumer device, like a phone? What does the future look like?
Well, brought-in solutions are really essential to helping get cell phones out of consumers' hands while driving. And driver distraction has been an enormous problem with cell phones. I think that is one of the huge and most important benefits of a brought-in solution. And I expect brought-in solutions to continue to play a key role, particularly as we look forward at price-sensitive segments and price-sensitive markets. But going forward, I would also add that we look at automation and navigation as completely linked. They're tied together, which means as soon as OEMs are designing or looking to have a more premium driving experience overall, we believe it becomes a vital interest to that OEM to push for an embedded navigation solution that will be in ways much superior to brought-in solutions, as it plays an integral role for delivering that holistic user experience in both hands-on and hands-off scenarios. And this requires really a single consistent map that can power both navigation and automated functionality, which is challenging to envision doing that with a brought-in solution.
Totally agree with Bill. In terms of usability, I think there's not much of a difference between an embedded navigation system and the one brought into the car via a mobile navigation app. The navigation experience in both cases is quite intuitive and free of distraction, as both technologies utilize the central in-car display. Another advantage that I see for mobile navigation apps is that smartphone to vehicle integration platforms like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay have become wireless more recently, which means running your favorite smartphone navigation app on the central display is more seamless than ever. Well, and what's more, mobile navigation apps are always up to date with the latest map data and are compatible with the latest of smartphones. But yes, as Bill rightly pointed out, as vehicle autonomy comes into the picture, embedded navigation solutions would be definitely more suitable.
So are map development challenges different in terms of electric or internal combustion engine vehicles?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say it's less about specific challenges in map development, but rather the services that are offered for ICE or EV experiences. So for example, in an EV, we may want to leverage different map attributes to optimize the route for the available charge. And if you could think of this like the most efficient route, this could incorporate an elevation profile to set the right acceleration recommendations and identify where that car can recuperate more energy. The type of attributes needed for this already exist in our database. It's really about what to do with those attributes in terms of intelligent services that are going to help and really help the industry in its transition to electrification. If you think about charging station availability, we've talked a lot about range anxiety over the years, and it's not that it goes away, but certainly most of the new EVs have excellent range. And so for many of the local use cases, it's highly sufficient range. But we're starting to see maybe something around charging anxiety, where a driver may not be worried about running out of that charge. The driver realizes it can get to a charging station, but doesn't know if that selected charging station is available or even in service. And also, when I think about EV range, is more sensitive to environmental factors than ICE. So for example, let's think about temperature. External temperature can have a huge impact on available range. And it's regardless of using the exact same driving style that you might have in a different type of environment. The EV routes and range have to account for these different environmental performance elements. And this is an area where we bring in what we call dynamic content, and it becomes essential to helping with determining some of these solutions. So if you think of, let's say, elevation information in the map, which is something we have in our map, one of our OEM partners estimates that their EV platform, when it drives uphill, might require 1.5 kilowatt hours per 1,000 feet of elevation gain. And that same OEM says, well, okay, increasing speed from maybe 60 miles per hour to 70 miles per hour can reduce your range somewhat significantly. So if we know those things in advance, and we know the road profile and the speeds of the road, along with incorporating these environmental factors, we can get to much better range estimation as part of that.
Thank you, Bill. Just reiterating what Bill said, I think there's no doubt that navigation is indispensable to a modern automobile, be it combustion-based or electric. Simply putting, electric vehicles are far more demanding when it comes to navigation requirements. Driver of an electric vehicle not only needs to know where and when to charge, they need specifics such as the charging connector type, voltage, as well as charging cost information. And when you add in journey dynamics like topography, weather, and driving style, providing navigation services to electric vehicles becomes slightly more challenging when compared to internal combustion vehicles.
Well said.
So what is the role of the cloud in terms of today's automotive navigation needs?
Yeah, the cloud has become really the key enabler for more and more services and to deliver richer, more up-to-date experiences that utilize real-time information, for whether it's for better ETAs and confidence in getting the best possible routing experience. So for example, we provide dynamic hazard warnings from the cloud that give real-time relevant information that could affect someone's drive. We also leverage over-the-air updates from the cloud, and that ensures the latest software and content that needed is loaded onto that vehicle. And I think this is obviously something we're seeing in the industry across the board. It's also a key for feature and functionality upgrades. And when we start to think about this, it really enables the vehicle lifecycle as a means to unlock additional revenue potential down the road. And I mentioned regarding EV charging, charger availability also is something, it's key information that relies on things like cloud connectivity.
Sounds really interesting, Bill. I mean, there's so much going on in the in-car navigation space right now. We are all aware how vehicles today come loaded with electronics and software. And the data generated by an ever-increasing number of cameras, radars, LiDARs, and other sensors is simply too large to be processed on board. For autonomous vehicles in particular, artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms are crucial to interpret the high-definition 3D maps, which give the much-needed semantic understanding and situational awareness to these vehicles. And all this data processing cannot be done anywhere but the cloud.
So here's most recent innovation: navigation on demand reduces development and lifecycle costs and enables OEMs and tier one companies to use a software development kit or an SDK to customize their own features or add third-party services. So do you believe OEMs can offer it as a paid service to generate new revenue streams? Can you maybe explain how it can work from a data monetization perspective?
Absolutely, yeah. And we're calling it Here Navigation. And with, I guess I'd say, really the dawn of the software-defined vehicle, monetizing differentiating features and functionality has become key. And we believe that the process to unlock that new revenue, or where you're going to unlock that new revenue, those new revenue streams, will be handled via the IVI head unit. The IVI screen is and has been the most dominant point of interaction for drivers in the past and today. And navigation is one of the most commonly used applications while driving, along with various services like traffic and parking and more. And when concepting Here Navigation, we wanted to develop it to be easily implemented, but also customizable and flexible to allow monetization. So in Here Navigation, we can provide monetizable dynamic services like traffic, parking, fuel prices, safety cameras, destination weather, hazard warnings, road signs, and more. And we expect OEMs to gradually develop their own branded and differentiating services. And We also have a number of third-party partners providing additional monetizable services. And when I look at that, you can have any number of opportunities for monetization. You could have an approach where it's a markup approach where one of the OEMs resells, could be here, could be third-party service packages, adding a markup to that sales price. It could be a revenue share model where revenue share to the OEM for, again, here or third-party service packages, or even a transaction model, and where you see revenue generated by here or third party on transactions taking place within a here navigation service. And you can think of this, I come up with like a fuel service. You check out at a gas station and have a rev share for that transaction that takes place. And previously this would have been something to be done once. And a transactional approach really allows you to monetize whenever that service is being used.
Wonderfully summed up, really. Nothing to add from my side.
Great. So I guess how important are over-the-air or OTA updates when it comes to enabling updates for incremental map data and the navigation engine?
Yeah, good question, Nina. That, for navigation, as soon as we talk about what I'd say mainly off-board navigation solutions, it's less about updates of physically stored content as only the freshest map content is streamed into connected vehicles. However, as stated earlier, OTA updates are essential for updating navigation software and functionality additions or improvements. And that speaks again to some of the things you might do to improve your navigation system or improve your overall solution and potentially monetize down the road. There are specific features like intelligent speed assistance in Europe that do require updates, and that can be done in the background. And this is updating a map that may not even be visible to the driver, but still needs to be updated frequently to capture any speed limit changes. And so OTA is a much more efficient and frankly likely to be leveraged method than if we were asking a driver to manually install an update for those features.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Bill. And the importance of over-the-air updates can simply be gauged from the fact that one of the first updates for automobiles, over-the-air updates for automobiles were incremental map updates. And I think these resonate pretty well with drivers as well. The only flip side I see is that updating embedded navigation maps is a tad complex compared to updating mobile navigation apps that are very easy to update for a layman. And although Japanese automakers are considered pioneers in map updates via the telematic systems, currently most automakers support over-the-air updates of maps and navigation software. And I also have some numbers to share here. According to IHS Markit data, nearly 26 million vehicles running globally were equipped with a navigation system that could be updated over the air in 2020. And we think that this number is expected to grow to nearly 286 million vehicles by 2027, representing a rather strong 40% growth compounded annually.
That's very interesting. So I think maybe could you kindly elaborate on how HERE ensures accuracy of its estimated time of arrivals, or the ETAs? Do you use predictive traffic flow analysis in addition to real-time data?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Janina. Predictive elements play a critical role to not just capture snapshots of the situation at hand, but also extrapolate what it will look like once you reach a certain location. So especially in combination with our mobility graph that takes into account elements like calendar entries and it learns about drivers' preferences, we provide really powerful tools to save our OEMs customers valuable time. HERE continues to be a leader in things like traffic innovation. One of our most recent HERE traffic highlights is lane level traffic, providing another level of granularity to achieve an optimal driving experience and help with determining those ETAs. And for EV routing, we leverage a multitude of map and service attributes to optimize the EV route to deliver a superior ETA.
Yeah, I think estimated time of arrival is such a crucial factor for in-car navigation. I think the accuracy of estimated time of arrival assumed new meaning when the famous Domino's ad that when they made its claim to deliver pizzas in 30 minutes or it's free. I feel mapping companies have largely tamed ETA accuracy, but will always be kept on their toes by dynamic, unpredictable factors like traffic density, vehicle attributes, road conditions, and even driving behavior. The focus should really be on accuracy here, even if that means a small trade-off with speed, I think. And getting it absolutely right is critical, as a before time delivery doesn't help either in some cases. And to add on, I think speed profiling can also help here, which can be used to estimate travel times when real-time information is not available and to facilitate route optimization as well. Speed profiles create an image of the road network by aggregating and processing trillions of anonymous GPS measurements from millions of devices to reflect actual consumer driving patterns.
How do you think 5G connectivity will impact development of automotive maps and navigation technology? How does the driver navigate when the vehicle passes through, poorly connected zones?
Yeah, navigation does not necessarily require the minimal latency or bandwidth benefits that come with 5G. And 5G, without question, it's going to enhance the overall IVI experience. It's going to enable new media capabilities and new streaming. And it also presents a huge opportunity for improved safety features and the promise of some cellular vehicle to everything or CV to X use cases. For navigation specifically, we think of things like smart caching, which allows us to manage areas with lower bandwidth or poor coverage. And we have mapped out connectivity and cellular signal strengths, which can be matched with a route or a most probable route. So by automatically caching the drive and potential alternate routes in advance, the vehicle anticipates where you will run into poor or no cellular coverage. We do this today with our cellular signals and HERE navigation offering. And that I think another element of this is that the user experience is a critical component of any solution like this. In a situation where a cellular signal is not available, that nav system needs to inform the driver, particularly if the vehicle needs to go from a hands-free scenario to hands-on. So you will see when a nav system establishes the route, it can even give the driver a route with the best cellular coverage, or you might look at it as it's going to give you a route with the most hands-free driving miles available. But all of that comes as part of creating that best user experience and managing for areas where you have poor connectivity.
I agree with you, Bill.
So with rising vehicle autonomy, highly customized and accurate HD mapping has become the norm. So how are ever-increasing ADAS features impacting mapping development? What are the challenges maybe in creating navigation systems for semi and even fully autonomous vehicles?
Yeah, that's a great question and an exciting area for us. As more and more ADAS features are map-enabled, those features operate better and keep drivers safer than if they only used perception sensors like cameras. But this creates a higher reliance on map accuracy. And so you think freshness and particularly consistency across navigation and ADAS or automated features is really essential. And I alluded to this earlier. When we built maps primarily for navigation, it was about getting from point A to point B. But now systems operate differently and require really high confidence in mapping accuracy for vehicle control. So this is a key area of focus for HERE. And really to your second question, we see the biggest challenge with navigation in context with autonomy in the user experience. And as consumers learn to leverage semi-autonomous features and experience both hands-on and hands-off driving during a single trip, we believe that experience has to be consistent. And the transition between hands-on and hands-off driving must be seamless. So when hands off, if the car is going to, let's just say the car is going to turn left, the driver needs audio and visual cues that are going to match that vehicle's activity. And so this requires really building a single map source that supports visualizing that guidance experience and also providing the HD map detail to guide automated functionality.
Yeah, you've really explained beautifully, Bill. I think the biggest challenge to autonomous driving is bad weather conditions. Extended sensor range, improved sensor perception, and a sensor agnostic data localization layer should help tackle this.
That's pretty interesting here. And I guess I just before we wrap up today's episode, it would be also interesting to know, map developers are increasingly integrating information on lane keeping, traffic, sensor fusion, hazard alerts, etc. Is the navigation data standard likely to evolve going forward given the manifold increase in map data requirements?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yes, it will evolve. And given that the maps are changing and growing much faster than in the past, the concept of a map is evolving towards a live service that feeds the vehicle with the freshest and most relevant data for the specific position and use case. Data standards are also evolving, allowing more granular updates of specific attributes, like providing the latest speed limits instead of refreshing an entire map. So adding additional dynamic content like hazards, parking availability, and lane level traffic, these elements really don't require refreshing or updating that entire underlying map information.
Yeah, just for the benefit of our audience, the navigation data standard offers a well-defined format that specifies the data model, storage format, interfaces, and protocols. It allows flexibility for customized user experiences and supports advanced navigation technologies like e-Horizon, autonomous driving, and cloud solutions. And since its introduction in 2012, we've seen that the standard has grown from 15 founding members to as many as 42 currently, and has been adopted across more than 30 automotive brands globally. I think that speaks in itself as to how these standards have evolved over the years. And considering that there's still a lot to be done in terms of navigation data standardization for autonomous driving applications, particularly when incorporating augmented reality features, I think navigation data standards will have to continue evolving with the ever-changing market needs.
Yeah, well said, Vivek.
No
Great.
problem.
Thank you. This was a really great discussion, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. A big thank you to you both for joining Autology.
Thank you for having me, Yadina.
Yeah, it was great to speak with you both. Vivek, really appreciate your points, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bill.
And thank you to all you listeners for tuning in as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode at our autology@ihsmarket.com email. And you can find out much more at autotechinsight.ihsmarket.com. Don't forget to hit all the subscribe, follow, and like buttons to stay on track with the latest Autology podcasts. And we look forward to you joining us again in the next episode. Bye for now.